home run. Cool. Keep it easy. So, hey, joining us today is Kevin Johnson, Director of Veteran Recruiting at Hearst. Kevin proudly served more than 20 years in the Army Reserve, including a deployment during Operation Desert Storm. After transitioning to civilian life, he built a nearly 40-year career at Hearst, starting as a graphics operator and rising into leadership roles before finding what he calls one of the most meaningful chapters of his career, helping veterans, reservists, and military spouses find their place at Hearst. He now leads veteran recruiting across Hearst businesses, runs their military employee resource group, and works every day to bridge the gap between the military experience and civilian opportunity. I'm excited to hear his insights on service, career growth, and creating real opportunities for the military connected community. Welcome, Kevin. And would you like to add anything to that? Did I manage to get 40 years all at once?
No, I just like to say you did a really nice job of writing that. And if you're looking for a job, we might be able to find something for you within Hearst. Thank you, everybody. And Ernie, thank you for inviting me to chat with folks today. I will never stop an opportunity to talk about the company that I work for, which is Hearst, and brag about all the good things that I have gotten from Hearst over the years. So I've got a short presentation that I want to talk about. Hopefully you can see my screen right now. But Hearst has been around for 138 years. We are a privately owned company, meaning that we are not traded on any exchange. We don't answer to any stockholders. We do answer to a family, however. It's the Hearst family. It's William Randolph Hearst. Any of you that are old enough may or may not remember who William Randolph Hearst is. If you've ever seen, it's claimed to be the greatest movie of all time. I happen to disagree, but Citizen Kane was based on William Randolph Hearst's life. If you are a fan of Deadwood from HBO many years ago, something that was so vulgar I couldn't let my kids watch it at a young age. But the arch villain in the third and fourth season would have to be George Hearst, which was a real person, which was William Randolph Hearst's father. But the company's been around for 138 years, and we have diversified. You can see through my wheel of business that we have diversified over the years. We are a very healthy company. We're a very cash fluid company because of our diversification. And we've got, I once sat down with our chief operating officer of the entire company and said, his name is Jordan Wertlieb. And I said, Jordan, how many businesses or how many companies do we own? And he corrected me and said, we are one company. However, we do have 360 brands or businesses. And it's a global company that reaches across 30 different countries. And we've got 20,000 employees, of which 15,000 of those are domestic within the United States. We have, and it's funny that we put this little block of business to business is the first block in the list because we started out as a consumer media company, and we also are a venture company as well. So, and that's part of the diversification that I was talking about. So I'm going to break this down. I'm going to brag about the company in 4 different areas here. First is about meaningful work and inspiring purpose. And so 35 of the 39 years that I've worked for this company, I worked in television, and there was never, ever a single day that I didn't drive home at the end of the day and thought to myself, you know what I did today made a difference in people's lives. And when you think about the military, you are serving the country, right? You're serving. They call it serving, and that's exactly what you're doing at Hearst. You end up serving viewers, readers, other businesses. It is a service company. So we have on our consumer media division, it started out with William Randolph Hearst in the 1887, and it was newspapers. And then he eventually grew into magazines and then television. Our business to business, we're not dumb. Everybody kind of knows where newspapers have gone. I'm guessing that there's probably no one in this call that gets a newspaper delivered to their house anymore. However, we do have 24 daily newspapers that still get delivered to houses and 52 weekly newspapers. magazines are sort of, the hard copy of magazines are following sort of that same trend. Television is holding its own. Most people watch television for either local news or sporting events. But that we were smart, back to my point, it's a very smart company. Back around the turn of the century, we started to diversify and turned into a business to business data company as well. So we own Fitch Group, which is one of the three major ratings and bond companies in the world. We have a division called Hearst Health. If anybody knows anyone that has a in-home nurse that comes by once a week or a couple times a week, 100% of those people touch a Hearst product. They just don't know it. It's all about data. And then we have Hearst Transportation. If you own an airplane or if you work for a company that has aircraft, almost every single part for those aircrafts comes through data that through a Hearst company for aircraft. We also have a GPS/maintenance data company for truck fleets. And then we also, that third block was about growing in innovation. We have a capital ventures branch of our company, and we're going to talk a little bit about Hearst Lab or Capital Ventures started out in 1995. So what's Capital Ventures? We invest in companies that we think will become a success. Not to drop any names, but I'm going to anyways. Pandora was one of them. Roku was another. But in 1995, we started this division. Hearst Lab is for women-led technology startups, and Level Up is for Black and Latinx-led startups. So that's another part of our company. All right, let me brag a little bit about the breadth and the opportunity within this company. And I will tell you my own story. I started almost 39 years ago as a graphics operator during live newscasts. And from there, I grew into I was at a local ABC station in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is where I'm talking to you from today. I've actually come full circle and come back home. But through this company, I was allowed to grow into a manager position and then a director position. I created a centralized graphics hub down in Orlando. I started with myself and one other employee. And at the end of 9 years, I had 27 full-time designers. We were making thousands of graphics a week. But all this growth came through this company. So over my career, I have taken either a step up, left, or right 9 different times. I've been reinventing myself. So the company has a lot of opportunities, as you can see up on the slide. For entry-level positions, I've listed several of our intern programs. Notice that SkillBridge is part of that. If you are still serving, if anybody on this call is still serving, Hearst Television is a SkillBridge certified partner. And then working upwards, think about, and I'm going to talk Army, okay? Not that I'm completely ignorant about the other 5 branches, but I'm most comfortable talking about the Army. So, and I'm old school. So ANOC, BNOC, any of you that are older than that understand what those acronyms are. But much like the military, Hearst has different leadership programs. So as you advance in this company, you get opportunities to take management courses and better yourself. And we grow leaders through the company. It's so strange. I look at this photo and I know everybody in here. And I started a long time ago, and I've built up my career in the company. And there are so many people that are at the top of this company, but they all started where I did many, many years ago. So it's great, you know, when everybody elevates. And so we have a lot of leaders that we grow within the company, right up to the executive level. We have something called HMI, and the school is taught at the military college. And it's like a weekend a month for 9 months. But we invest in our people, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then we respect our veterans. We have a pretty strong military veteran program. I wouldn't say that if I didn't actually hold this job. This is my only job. I'm a full-time employee that I do nothing but try to find military folks, people that have served in the military prior and are looking for a great job, a great career, and the company pays me to do this 100% of my time. We've got an ERG in our company, an employee resource group called Hearst Military Might, and we've got over 400 members. We've built a really beautiful community within the company. So we respect our veterans, we respect our military spouses as well, and we try to show it. All right, the next way, I think I almost covered this already. The culture of this company is the next thing I want to approach. And it's interesting because being with the company as long as I have, and I was in the military and specifically the reserves for 20 years, I thought every job, every company was like this, that the culture was there where they were there to support you and to help you advance. And I had an employee who left my employ several years ago, went to one of our competitors. I asked one of my subordinates about 9-10 months later, hey, whatever happened to, I'm going to say John is the name, whatever happened to John? Do you hear from him anymore? And my subordinate said, I haven't heard from him in months. And later that day, she came into my office. She had her phone up with a text, and it was from John. And John sent her a text and said, don't ever, ever, ever leave Hearst. So it speaks volumes about the culture of our company. Now, if you want to screen grab this, you go right ahead, because there's a lot of words on this slide. And it's very difficult for me to talk to any military veteran about benefits, because we all know that the military has the greatest benefits out there. However, Hearst does a really good job of comprehensive benefits packages. So oftentimes we have a system within our company where you can look up your salary. Everybody knows their salary, but you can also look at what basically what your worth is every year by including all of the benefits that you're taking advantage of. So we have a very extensive benefits package, and it just seems to get larger and larger every year. We also do something, I don't know if it's unique, but we allow folks to volunteer at least one day a year. It's a paid day. Think of vacation, think of personal time. We also encourage our employees to go out and volunteer. We have collected something like $13 million in donations through a program that we called Hearst Gives Back. And Hearst Gives Back is a program. Let's say you're a big fan of vet dogs, which is a 501c3, right, for canine units and emotional support dogs for veterans. Let's say you're a big fan of vet dogs and you volunteer and you give money to it. Hearst Gives Back is a platform that allows us, if I give $100 to vet dogs, Hearst Gives Back will turn around and give another $100. So you double your donation through Hearst Gives Back. So it's kind of a unique program, and we have raised millions. I worked in the TV, as I said, in the television division for many, many years. And there are things like natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, where we immediately kick in as soon as the event is over. We kick in and try to support that local community in any way that we can. Diversity and belonging. It's with the current administration, you probably, if you've seen the news, there are some struggles with the acronym DEI. I'm not here to talk about the pros and cons of it. I would like to say this: I am the administrator to our ERG that I mentioned, Hearst Military Might. I also belong to 6 other ERGs, and I belong to the ERGs because I love to learn about the other cultures. And so we have plenty of ERGs out there, and we encourage our employees to join them. I love this slide, this Hearst Tower right here. This is the mothership, if you will. It is on 58th Street and 8th Avenue, 57th and 8th Avenue in Manhattan. We've got some other large office buildings as well across the country. The Hearst Tower is a historic building and was built in the 1920s. It's only 6 stories high. And when we wanted to build the tower out of it, because it was a historic building, we couldn't tear it down. So we built a skyscraper inside of the 6-story building, and it's absolutely beautiful. If you're ever in New York City, it's an incredible building to see from the outside. And we don't have just these 6 locations. By the way, this down here in the bottom center, that is the Burlington Station. That was a train station in Omaha, Nebraska. It was built in the 1890s and shut down in the 1970s. We bought the building, refurbished it, and turned it into a television station. It's absolutely incredible. But we've got more than these 6 places. This is just a quick map. We have more locations than this, but I created this map, and these are the locations that have at least 20 employees. And I did not make a global map. I just created this
makes sense.
US map. Excellence and integrity, very much like the military, right? We're always striving to be the best. We have been awarded a whole lot of awards, either national awards, global awards. The one I want to pay particularly attention to is the last one, which is the 5-star employer. If you're interested in Hearst or interested in any company whatsoever, and you're worried if they understand veterans or not, the Vets Indexes is a nonprofit organization that has a survey that companies take. Last year, I think there were 540 different companies that filled out the survey. And you can find them online, and you can find the employers that truly understand transitioning military people. I'm very proud of the fact, and I'll brag a little bit, I'm very proud of the fact that Hearst is a 5-star employer, which is the highest ranking that you can get. And that, Ernie, was I quick? How much time? About 10, 15 minutes.
18, but who's counting?
Okay, you were apparently.
Yeah, with these interviews, I pay close attention to the time to make sure I don't bust the next person coming in. But no, that was all great information. So I mean, what motivated you to go into Hearst? You know, you were doing the Army thing and was just the first job and gave it a try.
It was 19. This is not going to sound like a sexy answer. It was 1986. I worked at a CBS affiliate here in Milwaukee. I was part-time there, and somebody from WISN TV, the ABC affiliate in town, reached out to me and asked if I would come in and talk to them about possibly applying for a job there. So it was a very low-level, entry-level position at WISN in 1986. I did that job for about 3 years, and I had no background in graphic design. But every day I would have to sit with a graphic designer and build the graphics for the 5 o'clock newscast, the 6 o'clock, I'm in the central time zone, and the 10 o'clock newscast. And I got used to watching what was put together. And when that person left and there was an opening available, I approached the boss and said, hey, why don't you let me try doing that myself? I've got some extra time on my hands. And they didn't want, because I wasn't trained graphically, they really weren't that excited about the offer. And I said, what have you got to lose? Well, it worked out. And eventually back when I got up to 2012 is when we centralized our graphics down in Orlando. And I seemed to be the natural choice to lead up that project. And that's part of being a military person. I was an E7 when I retired. So the logistics, the project planning and things like that come naturally to NCOs and to officers, and the the group graphics hub did not exist. So it started from scratch. And that was a position where I really drew upon all of my military knowledge to collect all the information, if you will, and then build a solution.
So, I mean, 4 decades there, what keeps you going and motivated through, I mean, you said 9 different roles.
It really is about the company. So the television division, I don't mean to center on the television division only, because it's all pretty incredible. But even when I was working in Milwaukee at the station, and I found myself in New York on the 39th floor, which is where the television division is, and you walk through the glass door, it's just like the president of the company will come out and go, "Oh, hey, Kevin," it feels like a small family business. It's a multi-billion-dollar company, but it always feels like it's a small family business. And it is a family business. I will say this, though, it is not family run. William Randolph Hearst was very smart, and not the board of directors for Hearst is not made up of more than 50% of Hearst children and grandchildren. So it's run by a board of directors that understand business rather than understand the family. Kind of went off on a tangent there, Ernie.
That's all right. I mean, this is how we learn new stuff. You know, there's things I'm certainly not going to think of. So I always welcome that. So, I mean, it sounds like you probably had some mentorship there. Can you share a big mentorship moment that led to career growth there? Was it a military, non-military person?
There are several people. You're helping me rehearse my retirement speech. I'm going to retire in February. There are several people in the company that have helped me along my way. We have official mentorship programs within the company, and it's usually connected. They try to connect you with someone who did a similar job than you did, but doesn't work in the same division, so that you get a little bit more exposure to the rest of the company. But I had one of my, and I'm going to talk Oprah Winfrey here, one of my aha moments. There was the vice president of technology. His name is Marty Fabel. And back in the year 2000, we only had 6 TV stations at the time. And in the year 2000, he reached out to me and said, "We bought a station in Manchester, New Hampshire. There's a kid there that knows how to code. And I make the graphics." And he said, I really need to connect the two of you. And it was that connection with a gentleman named Kurt, who still works for the company, but he would write the code for automation and I would make the graphics. And so we had a connection between Milwaukee and Manchester. In over months/years, we built an automated graphic system. So we still have people that make graphics, but there's no longer someone in a control room that every time a lower third title, Ernie, if you were up on the screen and we'd have your name and your job title underneath you, somebody used to sit in a control room and hit a button, and every time it went on the air and they took it off, the next one would come up. But one of my mentorships was just this connection with the vice president of engineering and the code writer, because we I don't want to say revolutionized, but we actually did really advance this company through the quality of graphics and the timing of how they go on the air. So that's just one of the situations within the company. But we have, and that was one that it's interesting because when you find a mentor, it doesn't feel like it's when it's unofficial, it doesn't feel like a mentor, at least to me. And then when it's over and you've grown and they've left the company or moved on somewhere else, it's when you reflect back on that and you go, "Oh my God, that was an incredible mentorship."
That was my guy.
Yeah. So that's I had my mentors in the military as well. I was an NBC guy. I was a bug and gas guy. I don't think they call it NBC anymore, but I was a bug and gas guy, nuclear, biological, chemical. I had a captain that was my OIC for the chemical section. And the last time I saw him was on my wedding day. We became friends, but I saw him on my wedding day. He and his wife came to my wedding, and that was in 1988. And about 2 years ago, I had lost touch with him. And about 2 years ago, he was in Orlando, and we met for lunch. And he was a captain at the time that he was my OIC. And as I was sitting across from him, I said, "So what did you retire as, like a lieutenant colonel?" And he goes, "No, it was a little higher than that." And I said, "That's incredible. You retired as a full bird colonel?" And he said, "Oh, it's a little higher than that." And I leaned forward and said, "Am I having lunch with a general?" And he said, "Yes, you are." And he showed me his ID card. And I said, "Good, then you're paying for lunch." So
I should hope so. I mean, yeah, that's a lot. So, I mean, for how long you been there? I mean, what advice would you give to the folks about building a long-term career at the right place versus just that first job, landing the first job?
I know there's a statistic out there that says, and I don't know how many of the people on this call are still serving and are just transitioning
Just
or transitioned a while ago.
just
But there
about
is
everybody here is in the transition process.
okay. So I saw a statistic, and I always repeat it, and I don't know why, because quite frankly, it's a nasty statistic. But 50% of all people that transition seem to leave their first job within the first year. And I think some of that is there's a structure in the military, and then there's a corporate structure, a structure in the civilian world that takes some getting used to. There was another statistic that said a total of 80% of people within the second year leave that first job. But that is due to culture. The culture of the company is the main reason that people leave that position their second year. And part of my job is to make sure that culture for welcoming veterans and people that have served in the military is there and is appreciated. So Ernie, I go to about 6-10 different military career fairs. Next week, I'm going to be in Charlotte. On Wednesday, there's a military career fair. So if any of you are in the North Carolina area, please come by and visit me. But my week next week looks like this. I fly to Winston-Salem. We own a television station there. Then we have a business center that's in Charlotte. Then I do the career fair. Then I go to a television station in Greenville, South Carolina, and another television station in Savannah, Georgia. What do I do at the TV stations and the other business units? I give a presentation. I have like an hour-long presentation. We have a conversation. I invite hiring managers. I invite talent acquisition folks, department heads, and mostly veterans and military spouses. And I talk to them about the military culture, because if you people are ignorant about the civilian side, and I use the word ignorant properly, I'm ignorant in a lot of things. But on the flip side, the hiring managers and the folks that work on the civilian side are very ignorant about what someone with a military background brings to the workplace. So it is part of my job is to educate them and let them know about all the positive things that somebody from the military can bring to the workforce. I had a SkillBridge intern fellow. I call them fellows. We had a SkillBridge fellow at our Washington News Bureau last year. She was a Marine Corps sergeant. And this year I have another SkillBridge fellow who's there right now, and another Marine Corps sergeant. And when I reached out to the managing editor of the Washington News, our Washington News Bureau provides national political news for all 35 TV stations that we own. And when I reached out to say, I have someone, they were in Okinawa. I have someone in Okinawa that is transitioning out, wants to do SkillBridge at the Washington Bureau. Would you be open to this? And he said that we were so happy with the last person, and they were so respectful. that not only did they elevate the product, but they also elevated all the rest of the employees that were working there, you know, which I just thought that spoke volumes about how people on the civilian side can learn from the military. So did I
Yeah,
answer your question? Sometimes I just ramble on, Ernie.
yeah, you got it. You got it. Hey, so I mean, what unique qualities do you see, you know, for vets coming out that work best with somebody like Hearst?
There, I mentioned this before, but anything where there's if there is a opening that is not being, it's not something that's backfilled, right? It's not somebody who's worked here before and left for, they retired or got another job and they're backfilling that position. But if we have brand new positions that have never existed before, military folks are incredible candidates for that. I think one of the things that you need to remember on the military side is no matter how long you've been in the military, when you come out and you go into the civilian sector, let's say you're an 05 or an 06, it is difficult in many situations to come in and say, I want to be the leader of this, you know, because there is a skill set. You have your military skill set, and then there's the skill set on the civilian side. And I a lot of times, and maybe I'm using 05, 06 is probably not a great example, but if you're an E5 and E6, chances are that you can come in to more of an entry level position and then rise quickly, if that makes sense, because you have to kind of prove that you understand what's going on before you can be elevated from there.
So on the other side of that, so what misconceptions do you see from hiring managers when you talk to them about us?
We all carry guns. We've
No, if
all
only.
shot and killed somebody. Let's see. You know, it's. I just did a webinar last week. I had a guest who was a professor at Marquette University to talk about the ROTC program, and another guest from a recruiting battalion who is an expert on the GI Bill. And I set up the webinar to talk basically with the family ERG, the Employee Resource Group, to explain. I think the title of the webinar was Military Pathways to a Debt-Free College Degree. I had to get that little rhyming alliteration thing in there. And I thought this was just going to be massive, right? That like if you could save tens of thousands or $100,000 on your kids' education, who wouldn't attend an hour-long presentation on this? I ended up with 26 people, and it's just so hard, I think, at times to break through to civilians about what the military brings to the workforce, and they have to be educated. And this is part of my presentation when I visit places, that like 85–90% of anybody who served in the military is not combat related. I served in a medical unit for 13 years, and I know a lot of doctors and nurses and dentists that didn't have any college debt because they went through the ROTC program to get their degree. So did I answer that question, Ernie?
So like, no, I think you just generally got it. They just don't understand that, you know, the bulk of us, like, hey, we weren't trigger pulling door kickers.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like when I would describe to a new recruit coming in, like, hey, so what do you guys do here? I said, hey, think of it like a small town just has an airport attached.
One of the things I get asked about is PTSD. And do people suffer from PTSD? Absolutely. But the number one cause of PTSD is like car accidents. It has nothing to do with the military, you know. So there's a lot of misconceptions, and that's why I love the opportunity to talk to our employees, to talk to our department heads about what the military person can bring to the workforce.
So one of the things that, you know, we get hammered into us in the military. I mean, there's always that one dude who's happy to do this, and hurt his shoulder, patting himself on the back. But the rest of us, we have to kind of quell that down because it's always the team. So, what advice do you give to, the vets who undersell themselves when job hunting, trying to remain humble?
That's a hurdle. That's a really high hurdle. Everybody coming out of the military. So one of the things that I'll do is when I get connected to somebody, I will review the resume, and I'm talking E7 to whomever I'm talking to. I'm very direct. I just had somebody reach out to me, wants to do SkillBridge in 2026. Sent me the resume and a beautiful photo up in the corner and this stock background graphic in it. And it was 3 pages long. And I basically got back to him and said, yeah, you really need to redo this resume, and you got to stop talking about the team and start talking about the things that you had accomplished. And so one of the things that I offer from our company is if somebody finds a position, they are welcome to reach out to me directly. I'll work with them first before I ever introduce them to a hiring manager, a talent acquisition person, and I'll make sure that the resume is squared away. Now, I say that, but I always say a resume is like the Bible. 10 people can read it, and 10 people will come away with completely different understandings of it. But I have my own set of rules that seem to have been working, over the years. But I know what is successful in most cases. I talk to a lot of other transition or talent acquisition folks in the company. I've sort of collected a best practices, if you will. And here's my advice for this call. Like, if you're working on a resume, put yourself in the other person's shoes, the person who's reading it, the person that has to review it. Think of this. There's job ABC is open up, and in the job portal, I've got 150 resumes, which is already like, oh my God, right? So every resume is going to get about minute and a half to get read. Everything that to start with. So everything that you do when you put on a resume, put yourself in the other person's shoes and make them do the least amount of work possible. So what do I mean by that? The name of your resume, Ernie, should be Ernest Smith resume, not Smith E final V2, that because just in the scope of things, I got 150 resumes and now I got to download yours and I have to rename it because I'm putting it into a folder with maybe the top 10 candidates. Other things that I would say about resumes are any link that you provide, make it a clickable link. It should be clickable. Don't make me copy and paste something into my browser. And my biggest tip for anybody is you can read your own resume 50 times and overlook the same mistake 50 times. Just have somebody else that's got 10 minutes to literally read word for word your resume to make sure that everything, there's nothing worse than having on a skill set attention to detail, and detail is misspelled, right? So
tile. I've seen that one. I mean, coming from aircraft maintenance background, when I first started, I was a mechanic before then doing HVAC stuff. When I first started working aircraft, it bugged the heck out of me if it was on a red X, meaning, hey, this thing's broken, can't fly. I'd fix it. I'd follow the directions to the letter, and I had to have somebody else come along and sign it off. And it drove me nuts until that one time I missed something, and it was obvious. I walked by it like a half a dozen times. And then that kind of informed me later with resumes, just like you said. You could see the same thing 100 times, become blind to it.
I had somebody that I work with within my team. We have a AI position, a senior AI engineer position that's open with one of our units. And I get a report. So this is something else that Hearst does. When you apply for a position, there's a box. There's a statement that says, have you ever served in the military? if you check that box, I get a report every Wednesday morning of all the new people that have checked that box. And I have another question on there that says, has your spouse ever served in the military? Because we respect the fact that military spouses go through an awful lot, just as, you know, like their wife or husband do. So where was I going with this story? Yeah, so we get these reports every Wednesday. Oh, now I know. So somebody that I work very closely with, we had the senior AI position open up, brand new. So a military person would be great for this. And I sent him an email and said, I see you've already rejected 2 of these. This is the 3rd one. And here's the background that I can understand from what I read on the resume and from their LinkedIn page. And he got back to me and he said, what were the other 2? And I gave him the names and he said, well, I rejected them because they're not in the area. And it's another educational tool because they don't understand that military people, you might have Virginia Beach, Virginia down on your resume, but you might want to be going home to Alabama or South Carolina and so I learned something this week. It's like, okay, there was a perception there that because they're not local, that it created a new set of problems. No, you're just trying to bring that person home. And there's another situation that I run into quite a bit, and that is when somebody, let's say somebody's got 20 plus years in and they've had a lot of responsibility, whether a senior NCO or up there in the officer ranks, and they are applying for a job that seems to be below their level. And it's very hard for me to try and convince, because I'll get hiring managers and say, well, they're overqualified for the position. And I have to go back and say, hold the phone a second. You have no idea what they've been doing, and I can find that out. And maybe they've had so much responsibility and they're now retiring and they want to stay busy, but they don't want to have that much responsibility. And I had somebody ask me one time, well, what would they do with the rest of their time? I go, trust me, a military person will find a way to better effectively run the operation that you're asking them to do. Over time, they will figure out ways to make it more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, we're not unused to moving. Does Hearst do relocations, or is that a catch as catch can or a higher level thing?
It is a case by case situation. So when I moved down to Florida from Milwaukee, they relocated me. It was a promotion to a higher level, and they moved me. I'm ready to retire. I wanted to come back to Milwaukee, where my family is located, and that came out of my own pocket. So it's a case by case basis. I think if you're
we got tore the fuck up at football last night.
Hey, that's great. Can you mute yourself about the football?
I am looking forward to the game tonight, though. I've got it on my alarm. So
that was unexpected.
I would say this: anybody that is located in one place and they're looking for a job in another one. Let's say you live in Alabama and you're looking for the job in New York. This will kind of coincide with the story I just said. A cover letter will never hurt you. Sometimes it won't help, but it certainly wouldn't hurt you. And when I say cover letter, to me, it's 3 or 4 sentences. It's not a full page, and then I'm looking at another 2-page resume. There are different, I'm sure everybody that's gone through CAP, I'm guessing they still teach that if you're going for a government job, put everything down that you've ever done in your lifetime on one resume, and then the other resume for the civilian side, make it shorter, 2 pages or less. 2 pages is acceptable. But people that are coming in that truly are coming into an entry level position. I have a DINFOS, a Defense Information School person who graduated from there. They're looking to become a video journalist with our company, and he had like a 2-page resume, and I just took a whole bunch of stuff out of there and said, you're really kind of just starting now on the civilian side. You can knock this down to 1 page. So that goes back to the put yourself in the shoes of the person that's having to look at all of these, because there's a point where I can tell you that all 5-page resumes just, I'm pretty sure they all just get put to the side. But the other thing that I try to tell people is use bullets and not paragraphs. If you want to use a paragraph, put it in the cover letter, but pretty much people want to just absorb it really quickly, on this end.
Yeah, I had a guy mid-20s, 6-year Army reservist, gave me a 19-page resume for a technical job. And I was like, dude, you need to shorten this up. He's like, that is the short one. I was like, nobody's going to read this crap, man. Nobody. It's like, I got shorter resumes for PhDs going for executive positions by like 10 pages. And they have to list all the things where they were published. So, once you get to page 3, you ignore the rest because that's all their published work.
I would say, like, in regard, I don't know if anybody tells you to put an objective in anymore. The only objective should be that to get to the next level and actually have a face-to-face conversation, whether it's in person or through Teams or Zoom. That's really the only objective. Most people can start with a skill set, and define what's most important on the resume. I've had people that put their education in at the top, but it didn't compare to what their experiences or their skills were. So I've asked, and there's not a set rule of how things should be put together. It just depends on your own personal experiences, really.
Yeah, for me, like I always appreciated the resumes if they had the education at the top, if it was like roles that required a specific degree, because that would save, as a recruiter, that would save me the time. I was like, yep, qualified. Okay, I'll look at the rest. Yep, qualified, good. But if I had to go digging, it was like more time that took me. And it's just something to consider when you put that together is like, hey, is the education a big part of the role or is the experience the big part of the role? And you can adjust your resume for that because the happier the recruiter is, the quicker they look at it, the better chance there is for a hiring manager to look at it and then move. That was my experience anyway. What about you?
We had the current president, Mike Hayes of Hearst Television Division, about 3 years ago. He talked to the head of HR and said, why do all of our job requisitions, our job postings, like have a bachelor's degree in it? He said, as president of this company, I'm not qualified for most of the job requisitions you have posted. So I literally, with 3 other people, sat down and removed, and I don't know how they ever got on there. So there are certain positions, I would say, if your folks see a requirement as being a bachelor's degree, if I would apply for it anyways, and I don't know if you would disagree with this, Ernie, but as long as you've got the experience and the skill set, I would say apply for it anyways. Now there are plenty of other positions that you're not going to go into a CPA job without a degree, but there are certainly other ones that companies may have that listed in it. I just don't know why they do it.
Yeah, the bigger companies, they're worried about the lawsuit stuff. So if it says in there, hey, you have to have a bachelor's degree in A, B, and C, if I sent that forward and said, hey, this and I had the case happen, somebody had 20 years experience, but they were in the wrong degree. If I forwarded that up, I was in trouble. If that guy got hired, I was looking for a new job. Whereas smaller companies can be a little bit more nimble, or somebody like you guys who realize, like, hey, they've been doing the job for 20 years. Who cares if they went and drank beer for 4 years and did classes?
Yeah.
Just obviously it's not all schools, not all educations, but there's a lot of them out there where you realize, like, hey, the experience is so much more valuable than a few hours in class. And I definitely appreciate you doing that. So this is my final one. So what's your message to vets here today who are nervous about this next chapter?
I think you're right to be nervous. Probably not what you want to hear.
That's fair.
It's a big step moving from the military into the civilian sector. If you do not have a LinkedIn page, work on one. I worked in graphics and marketing most of my life, and I'm here to tell you, even if you haven't worked in marketing, when you get out there, the difference is that in the military, you've got a promotional packet and it's stones to stones. You're comparing, to the other people that are looking at that promotions. It's all on a level playing field. When you are in the civilian sector, you have to be able to market yourself. So that goes from the resume, short cover letter if you think it'll help, LinkedIn page. Your number one goal coming out of the military should be to increase your networking as much as humanly possible. Today, whoever's following on this today, please don't miss the opportunity when this is over to find me on LinkedIn and connect with me. Anybody who I was at Fitch, in the Fitch ratings group that we have. They do a 4-day seminar in the financial district in New York City, and the seminar is for military people, transitioning military people, and basically, I don't know how they worded it politically correct, but it's basically moms that have stepped away from their careers for the last X amount of years because they were doing something really important like raising a family. But I did a presentation to those folks and told them, if anybody, at least the military people in the room, if you don't connect with me on LinkedIn, then you've missed a primary opportunity for networking. So networking is the biggest thing I think you can do. Look at vets indexes, networking. ACP is the American Corporate Partners, is a nonprofit also that's really good. They will connect you with a mentor in the civilian sector, and they will help with one-on-one with resumes and networking skills and interview skills and things like that. These are all tools that you can use. You are all welcome, please, to connect with me on LinkedIn. I may not get back to you today, but it will be soon. And I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
My man, any closing thoughts you'd like to share?
I just appreciate the opportunity. These folks don't know it, but you and I never met, Ernie, and then we just connected through, I think, LinkedIn, quite honestly. Yep. Great networking job, Ernie. And so he offered this opportunity up to me, and I jumped at it. I didn't have to be asked twice. It's a phenomenal company that I work for. There are plenty of different diverse jobs, IT, marketing, journalism, you name it. We have companies like Camp Systems and Noragon, which are on the transportation side of aircraft and truck fleets that have a lot of military veterans. We're not turning wrenches or anything. This is all data-based companies, but they have a lot of veterans that work there because they understand the process. And I would be happy to entertain any communications with any folks that want to reach out to me.
Yeah, I'll definitely hit you up on that. Thank you very much, sir. So, everybody, this has been Kevin Johnson of Hearst, long-time employee, 20-year retired Army E7. I thank you very much for spending some time with us, Kevin. Love the information, love the no BS approach. It's always appreciated here. Thank you, sir, and you have a lovely day.